Hello and welcome to episode 30 of Mando, Ontario's source for the latest in the disc golf world. I'm your host, Robbie Holden, joined by my friend and co-host, Sean Galbraith. Galen isn't going to be available for the next month or so, unfortunately, but we're going to keep on chugging along, as I like to say, or used to like to say. I feel like I haven't brought the keep chugging along to the show in a while. I gotta bring that back. But we are doing something a little differently and are bringing you a bonus episode in between our regular shows that will be interview-only episodes. So no tournament recap or anything like that, just some interviews. And for the first time that we are going to bring this bonus episode, we have two featured interviews and are very excited to welcome back to the show Sofia Donnecke and Chantel Budinsky. We'll be right back on Mando with Sofia. Since our next guest was last on the show way back on episode 11, she made her major debut at the European Open where she finished 15th. She won her first career Canadian National Championship and helped Team Canada win the bronze medal at the WIFDF World Team Championships. So far in 2025, she played on the Tour Down Under, finding the podium in all four events, including a win at the Egg Monster Classic, and has cashed at both DGPT events she's played so far. She's got a busy schedule for the rest of the year, including 4 majors, Champions Cup, USWDGC, the European Disc Golf Festival, and Worlds, and will be playing another 3 tour stops in Europe too. We are happy to welcome back to the show from Victoria, BC, Sofia Donnecke. Sofia, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thanks for having me on. It's good to be back.
It is always a pleasure to have you back on here. And I want to start where your season started, down in New Zealand for the Tour Down Under. And we'll get to your stellar play on the course. But for me, New Zealand is probably number one on my travel bucket list. So I want to know, how was the whole trip as a whole, being down under for a full month?
It was actually a month and a half almost. And It was just unreal. I brought my gravel bike down, so I got a ton of sightseeing in, ate amazing food, drank amazing coffee, but just the scenery was unreal. The weather was perfect. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. The sunshine was there, although you had to wear a lot of sunscreen all the time. My habits up here in the Pacific Northwest aren't actually very good for sun protection. So down there, I tried my best to protect myself from that ozone hole. So, yeah, but no, it was unreal and just beautiful and just totally a different vegetation and yeah, no, I could go on. It was dreamy.
Seems like everywhere you travel. Sorry, go, Sean.
And a little windy too.
Oh yeah, just when we play disc golf though.
I was going to say, it seems like everywhere you travel, you're looking for different trails to ride your bike on everywhere, as someone who is a passionate cyclist as well. How did the trails in New Zealand stack up to some of the other ones that you have, experienced over the last few years as you've jumped onto the Disc Golf Pro Tour?
Yeah, so New Zealand, there was just a lot more like mountain biking hubs, and there was some gravel roads. Like a lot of New Zealand's pretty remote, like just like country roads, kind of windy roads connecting smaller towns. So like you can ride on those. There's not much of a shoulder, but then if you actually look and find like mountain biking trails, there's just like incredible trail networks just sprinkled throughout both the North and South Islands. So it was really unique in like how frequent there was these hubs of mountain biking trails. So yeah, no, it was pretty awesome because yeah, there's a lot of infrastructure for that kind of recreational cycling. I'm glad I didn't bring my road bike because I would have been bummed to miss out on those trails.
Are you going to bring your one of your bikes to the big European tour?
Yeah, I'm like, that's my goal this week, is to kind of get the logistics for the airlines and the bike sorted. But yeah, I'm hoping to bring my trail/road bike to Europe. But yeah, it is logistically a bit of an extra challenge, but then once I'm on the bike, it's all worth it.
I'd be surprised if you spent that long without a bike.
Yeah, no, it would be like tricky for sure.
Yeah. So, as Robbie said, you played 4 tournaments on the Down Under Tour and finished on the podium in all of them with a third, 2 seconds, and a win at the Egg Monster. Does a start to the season like that help give you a confidence boost in your game going into the Pro Tour season? You've cashed at both Pro Tour events you've played so far, and that gives you, you're 6 for 6 on the year for cash.
Yeah. So totally. I think the beauty of playing in New Zealand was there was lots of attention on us, but it didn't feel as serious as like maybe starting with a Pro Tour season opener. So if I played bad, like there was a bit of less pressure, even though like there was great competition, but it just felt like very light. And like the courses were challenging, but they weren't like really punishing. So there was like a bit more forgiveness with if I made mistakes and stuff on the course. So it was a really nice way to get the year started, and less pressure, and like a really nice way to ease into my tournament play, and gain a lot of confidence, and know, okay, like not like a nail biter. Oh, how's my first performance of the year gonna go? Because it was in New Zealand. We were just having a great time, and it was like, well, if I shoot well today, or if I shoot poorly, I'm still gonna have like a great time this weekend. Just seeing new things and exploring. So it was a really beautiful way to start the disc golf season for me, because it built my confidence. The courses were really fun. And it was really friendly competition, and the local clubs were just so supportive and lovely.
Before we move off of New Zealand, I want to ask the tournament that you won, which was the first event down under the Egg Monster Classic. As you were finishing out the final round, you were going for a little just layup onto the green, and it was windy out, and the disc just kind of went straight down into the ground and went nowhere. And I was sitting there with a little like one of us sort of moment as I was watching as an amateur player. But I just want to know what was going through your mind in that moment as that happened. You had pretty much wrapped it up already. It didn't add too much. You were able to lay up again after that and then tap in for the win. But just on that one shot, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, so it was one of those shots where it was definitely like a jump putt in normal conditions. My goal was to just blast the driver and see if it gets to the trees. If it lands in the hazard, pitch up for a single bogey, or maybe even a par. I can't remember. It was a par 5, but yes, but it was a really strong headwind, a slight right to left headwind. So I was just terrified of like the wind. If I let any hyzer happen, it would just pick it up and just carry it left. And sometimes there's like irrational fears that will happen like 1,000 feet, just like you like magnify it in your brain of how bad the wind is going to make your putter go. So I was just like, okay, really flat and just like scoot it up there. But of course I put it nose down and the wind just took it and slapped it down. To be fair, it was also just like really fluffed. So I just didn't commit to the shot just right. But it did feel really silly. And then suddenly I was like doing mental math. I was like, wait, do I have to like run the putt now? Like how many shots do I have? Because other things had happened to Juliana and Emily. So like I had to like, it was kind of a frantic moment to kind of go back and figure out, okay, where do I sit now? So I remember that was kind of like a very confusing moment after that happened.
Yeah, well, in the end, it obviously didn't matter. You were able to lay up again, tap in, take down the win in your first event of the year. Obviously, a great start. But I will thank you for giving me a little bit of the best pros in the world can have little fluff shots like that I don't have to feel so bad when it happens to me, albeit a lot more often than it happens to you. I am sure. So thank you for that.
Fun fact that we're going to talk about from my entire New Zealand trip.
Well, there was obviously a lot of good shots in that win as well, but had to stop and focus on there for a little bit. But after New Zealand, you've also played the Supreme Flight Open in Florida and the Open in Austin in Texas. Your first time playing either of those events. How did you enjoy playing on those courses? Had you played them all before? And how would you sort of rate the start to your Pro Tour season so far?
Yeah, so I hadn't played any of those courses before going down, and then obviously I had a week to sort of learn them.
Right.
Supreme Flight, that Florida course, Olympus is amazing. Like really fun throws. It's not really wooded, but it's obviously there's definite shapes that you have to get, lots of elevation, which you don't expect to get in Florida, and just a really fair course, but brutal if you're not throwing well. Some of the scrambling is just, you can't really scramble very well on the course. And so, yeah, that was just a really, like, I was pleasantly surprised. Like, I didn't expect the course to be that good. So I think it's one of my favorite courses in North America, to be honest. And then in Austin, I also hadn't played either of those courses. Sprinkle Valley was wooded, but I think they took a lot of the rough out, so it made it actually pretty scrambleable. Despite how wooded it was. And the golf course was also really fun. I think they've cleaned that up too and added some challenge to some of the holes. But both courses were great. Sprinkle Valley, I knew was going to be a challenge for me, just based on my experience level and stuff. The woods is always sort of where I feel like my rating is like kind of like two of my sides as a player. Like I've got pretty good skills and consistency on golf courses, and then in the woods I'll have lower rating rounds, so I feel like my rating is like kind of a balance between those two types of courses. And so it was actually pretty cool to shoot my rating at Sprinkle Valley in a woods course. So for me, that's a lot of like a sign of really great progress, and I just got a lot of practice in the woods recently. So yeah, all the courses were amazing. I had a great time. I'm really happy with how my season opened. There's obviously parts of my game that I'm hoping to work on, but I think top 15 at both is a pretty solid way to start the year.
Absolutely. So you're saying that there's stuff that you're trying to work on, which I think pretty much everyone would say that there's something in their game that they're trying to work on at any given moment. What is that for you right now? What is that sort of particular aspect of your game that you're looking at trying to, really hammer out with either field work or whatever it is to really dial it in and improve?
Yeah, so I'm sort of a bit of everything. I think decision making has gotten really good, and sort of when I'm not throwing well, finding a way to throw well again. So my throwing at a lot of the rounds, especially Sprinkle Valley, actually was some of the best throwing I'd seen from myself. I just struggled on the putting green. So it's actually like a bit of everything in my game, just kind of finding a bit more consistency on the putting green. I tend to have either really good days or really bad days, just with my release and getting over the it's like nerves, but also just finding the timing and the rhythm when I'm like hyper focused and competing versus in practice rounds when you're just kind of very loose. So I'm trying to bring more of how I feel in tournaments putting into practice, where I'm actually like finding real things that I can think about when I putt. Because obviously it's easy to hit all these sorts of crazy putts in practice sometimes, right? But thinking about how I'm doing that and just being a bit more conscious of how I might feel in competition instead, and just to help me with the bad days. On the good days, I feel like I putt actually really well. So if I can get my putting to where it's the bad days are better, I feel like I could be doing really well. So yeah.
There was a lot of discussion, as I'm sure you know, about the Open at Austin, about good old hole 18 at Sprinkle Valley, which played as the hardest hole in Pro Tour history.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of that hole? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What could have been done to make it a better hole? Was it a bad hole, or was there bad rules on a good hole to make it kind of crap? And then sort of what was your approach to it? I don't know if you saw Mint, they who I guess designed the course, they got roasted so hard that they posted a video today showing them they pulled the basket. And they've taken hole 18 out of play. Now, I don't know if this is a pre-April Fool's joke or something, and they're going to bring it back tomorrow with even harder rules. But anyway, I thought it was quite funny. But wait, what did you think of hole 18 at Sprinkle?
The shots you needed to throw to execute the hole, if you ignored maybe the OB at the green, I thought it was actually a pretty interesting and fun hole. I think the problem came with the last shot, obviously, where you have to make it onto an island. You can't see the island. It's about 200 feet. It's a tunnel shot, and there's something right in front of you that you have to throw over. I think if there was a way to maybe move the OBs so that you can throw from the top if you miss, I think to me that's the simplest thing to change on the hole. And honestly, just have that drop zone be like if you have to keep throwing from the top of the stairs until you made it on, instead of having the drop zone behind the island, just having that one drop zone there. I think that's what I would do to keep it like. Then it's still like an iconically challenging hole, but it doesn't force players to throw like a nose up blind shot to like land on the island where the OB is like at the bullseye. Because I think both rounds, I actually thought I played it like almost perfectly, and my shot to the actually no, last round I went OB on my second, but my approach shot onto the island, both days was in the circle. One of them was in the bullseye, and both of those shots, when I threw them, I was like, I nailed it. Like I was so happy because they were both very stressful shots based on my position. And I was like, well, I have to go for it because I'm not going to lay up and then try and go for it. I'm just going to try and cross. But both of them ended up being absolutely perfect, close to the basket, just OB short because of that wall that's right up against the basket. So I think, there's a couple ways to tweak it. I don't think it was like a terrible hole. I think just that ending needed to look a little different. And that nose up putter blind shot really, I mean, sure, you should be able to throw it in theory, but I don't know. It just, based on the numbers that really good players were taking, I feel like that tells you something about it. But, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. When only 5 players in the best in the world who birdied it, and it's averaging 3 above par.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much.
I think I was a 7 and a 9 on the second day,
which was multiple strokes better than the world's best player right now.
Yeah, I think it really kind of shook up the leaderboard, and
I would say so.
Interesting. I'm glad we had a day at Harvey to sort of lock in, or kind of start to undo that sort of crazy swing in numbers. Just because there was a cut at this event. So it would have been a bummer to end on that hole and go from being like well inside the cut to like, just outside. So definitely a crazy hole, crazy results from it. But I think the hole itself, like maybe a couple of small tweaks. I don't think they should rip it out completely. I think it's a great number of shots you need to throw to like get the 4. But I think we should take away the fact that like half the field is going to get double digits.
Probably a good sign that something needs to be worked on there.
Yeah.
So I think last year. Oh, go ahead, Robbie.
I was just going to say, I think one of the stats that I saw, which blew my mind from that hole, was that more people got double bogey or worse than there were players that got bogey or better, which is never a stat that you want to see on a hole. But I do agree with you that it's got the it's got the structure to be a great hole. I definitely, like that tunnel where it finishes up towards the green. So I definitely think that there are ways that it can be sort of corrected without actually being fully taken out. So hopefully it doesn't get taken out. But like Sean said, we'll see what the either an April Fool's Day thing announcing that they're pulling the pin. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but we will see.
Or put the pin on top of the stairs, make it a 4 for us gals, and then we'll see. Lots of little things, but
The guys didn't do much better on it either.
no.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Still some blow up numbers in the MPO division as well. We just had Rebecca Dawn on the show recently, and she had suggested potentially making a drop zone at the top of the stairs. So if you did go OB trying to get to the green, you're at least on top of the stairs, not having to throw nose up and over the stairs into a blind shot onto the green. And I've seen some other ideas out there that I personally think can work. So I hope that they listen to some constructive feedback and work on it at least.
I think the elevated drop zone is the most popular tweak that I've heard. Just letting people throw from top of the stairs if they missed on their first. But yeah.
Well, we will see. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
No, I was going to say I was going on the next question. So you played 2 events in Europe last year, and this year you're going to be spending a lot more time over there. You've signed up for PCS, Krokle, Turku, and both majors. You must have enjoyed yourself there last year, where you sort of you busted onto the Pro Tour at Vegas, and then boom, now you're at Worlds. What are you most excited about for this longer trip to Europe for what the Pro Tour is calling the European summer?
Yeah, so I love Europe. I actually spent 5 years of my childhood growing up in Germany, so I feel really happy there, and the food's amazing, and the people are great. So that's one thing, and then the disc golf there is just so awesome. I had a great time in Finland and Estonia last summer, and I just didn't want to miss out again this year, and I wanted to see Norway. Some of those courses look incredible. So yeah, I figured might as well, if I'm gonna go to Europe, I might as well send a couple more events, squeeze those in there, and do the full swing, or most of it, I guess, or that section.
Is there a particular event, course, or city that you're looking forward to visiting most? What's really getting you excited as you look ahead to that European trip?
Yeah, so let me see here. The PCS Open, I'm really excited to kind of go to the more remote part of Norway, and Krokle Open. Those courses look pretty cool. And when I saw them on coverage, they kind of remind me a little bit of what we could be doing up here on the west coast of Canada, and yeah, it just seems like the wilderness there. I'm just really excited to spend some time out there and play out there. Hopefully the weather's good. But so I'm really excited to see those 2. Those will be new to me. I'm excited to return to Tallinn, and but my favorite course I've ever played is the Monster in Tampere. So that I'm really excited to return to, the Monster and the Beast. And the European Open was such a cool atmosphere last year, and I can't imagine what it's going to be like this year with the World Championships being there. I think the women's field was really small last year at the European Open. So this year there's going to be quadruple the number of players because it's Worlds. So a lot more spots are open, and it's just going to be huge. So I'm really excited. It's my first World Championships ever. So yeah, it's going to be unreal.
And as Canada's top-rated FPO player, you got early registration through the Tier 1 process. So well
I
done
sure
there.
did. I'm glad I didn't forget to sign up. For once, I'm early to the party, I guess.
So last year while you were there, you finished 15th at the European Open, 14th at the European Disc Golf Festival, both of the courses or events that will be Worlds and European Disc Golf Festival this year. So with another return trip after playing it last year, how do you feel about your game going into those tournaments this year, and how do you feel about your chances and ability to perform on them?
Yeah, so I'm really excited to bring my enhanced skill set to the monster, particularly. Just I have more. My Innova bag is getting more and more dialed. Now that I've really settled in, I've had a year to compete and sort of grow with my bag. So I'm really excited to put my skills to the test again and sort of have a rematch after last year where I played pretty well, but left lots of strokes out there. So and there's not a lot of events where I'm returning to a course I've competed on already. So I'm really excited to sort of have these two that are pretty important events of for the year be events where I'm returning to the course and I can sort of practice in the week, but I have that prior knowledge. I have all my course notes from last year, so I know what I threw beforehand, and now I can sort of adjust my game plan to who I am as a player now, but not be working off of square one with learning the course and having good intuition about where you want to go and not go. So yeah, I'm excited. I had a lot of fun last year, and so I'm just really excited to get back out there.
So before you go off to Europe, you had mentioned, I believe it was before we actually started recording, just as you came on, that you're back in BC right now until going back into the States for the Las Vegas Challenge, and then followed by Champions Cup, which will be held in California this year, where they usually host the OTB Open. And Vegas was where you really sort of blew up onto a lot of people's radar with a second place finish there. And that was the event where we first had you on the show afterwards to chat about it. So speaking of, going back to events for a second time or repeating them, how are you feeling about going back to Vegas this year? How excited are you? Are you looking at, improving that finishing place from last year by one and taking down the win this year?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think Vegas is sort of just a happy place for my game. Big shots, throwing over golf greens, bit of wind, got to get those wind reads just right. That's my favorite part of getting on the tee pad and like having my discs and being like, well, there's a tail right to left. I'm going to throw it on hyzer and just, kind of like that kind of stuff is just really fun for me. Vegas, I think actually Champions Cup is before Vegas, so I have to sort of get dialed in before Champions Cup because that's a pretty big deal. And then I'll have Vegas to look forward to after that, before the Northwest Disc Golf Championship. So 3 pretty big events in a row, all on awesome courses. I think the OTB course, was my first like DGPT event last year. And I think I got like 15th or something like that. So I'm excited to return to that one. That'll be my first event on May 1st. And Vegas will be 2 weeks after that. So I'm really excited for the next few events in my way. Not too many woods to like stress out about, more just like throwing fun shots and throwing hard, which is, where I find my rhythm a lot of the time. So I'm just really excited to get back out on those courses.
We know that you have quite the powerful arm to unleash out on those more wide open courses. So we'll be looking forward to watching it for sure. And I got it wrong because I was looking at your tour schedule from last year where it was Vegas and then OTB. So I had flip flop, but you actually finished 14th at OTB last year, which was your first DGPT event. So how do you feel about going back into it this year? I know from what I can remember, it's definitely is a course that suits some nice big arms. So you got to feel good about your chances going in for that one.
Yeah, I think that last year, that was like my first. I mean, I'd played Throw Pink the fall beforehand, which is also a really big stop on the tour. But OTB was my kind of one of my first events on a course of that like difficulty, and so I'm excited to return to it with some of the decision making improvements I've made to my game, as well as just having gotten better as a player as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to going back. It's a fun atmosphere, and really cool. I mean, you've got I think it's the giant oak trees that it's not necessarily wide open in the sense like you've got a ceiling on a lot of these shots, and there's a lot of placement shots. There's water. It's not just a blasted out the gates kind of course. You have to place a lot of your shots, but it's big placement shots, which is kind of fun.
You also mentioned playing upcoming the Northwest Disc Golf Championship. I've got Disc Golf Festival in my head from the European stuff, and it's confusing my brain with all the titles. The Northwest Disc Golf Championship, obviously up in the Portland area, and I kind of have a question looking ahead a little bit because that tournament hosting team was announced to host the World Championships in, I can't remember if it's 26 or 27, but sometime in the next 2 years, they will be hosting the World Championships there. Obviously, very close to you in BC. So, how excited are you to have a World Championship up so close to where you are in the Pacific Northwest?
I think that's going to be amazing. I actually forgot about that. I remember hearing about this. And yeah, so, I got a peek for that whenever that is.
Are we going to send down like a Canadian army of fans from BC to get down and support not only you, but the other Canadians that I'm sure will be competing in that as well?
All of Canada is going to come down for this.
Perfect.
We'll just send the nation.
Yeah, well, we see every year that when the Blue Jays go to Seattle, there are always an invasion of Blue Jays fans. So I think Canadian disc golf fans can have the same effect invading those courses out in Portland. So call to all Canadians, not only just in the Pacific Northwest, get ready for a trip to Worlds so you can support our Canadian heroes.
Yeah, we'll rent out a few hotels and cities.
Perfect.
And we'll bring the country down.
Yeah, we'll get all the logistics together.
Perfect.
In addition to Canadians going to follow you on tour, there's another opportunity for people to come to you this June at Smith Lake Farm, the disc golf camp that is taking place there out on Vancouver Island. You are one of the 4 camp leaders, along with Chance Stad, Thomas Gilbert, and Nate Sexton. I've already signed up. I'm super excited for this. I'm really hyped to actually learn how to not suck at disc golf. How did this event come about? Tell people what's in store and what they can expect.
Yeah, so it's really exciting. Smith Lake Farm is a place that I often venture to while I'm on the island for, practicing disc golf, spending time in a really awesome community, lots of good mountain biking. It's just one of my favorite areas. I went up to Merville growing up a lot, so that's a nearby region, or I guess it is in Merville. So yeah, this kind of came about last summer. Clea reached out to myself, Thomas, and Chance, and we sort of ran a Pros versus Joes event where we, instead of just having a normal tournament, we had clinics and we sort of played a fun filmed round against the locals, and it was just a really awesome time. And now with the course sort of going through expansions, they've got a basket set up on the course, and just the community growing and really thriving. Clea and we all wanted to make it a bigger event. And so, yeah, we reached out to Nate and he agreed. And so now we're going to have a multi-day event, June 13th to 15th. We've got the Alders booked out, which is a waterfront resort just down the road from Smith Lake Farm. So that's included in the tickets. There's going to be like one-on-one coaching clinics, or I don't know what one-on-one, but there's going to be sort of lots of different coaching clinic opportunities. There's going to be some Pros versus Joes There's going to be barbecue, disc golf parties. There's going to be it's just going to be disc golf camp, with some organized events. I'm sure there'll be like some unstructured playtime as well. And we're ironing out the full schedule still, I think. But yeah, it's going to be really awesome. It's a great team of us. And yeah, we've got a lot of interest already. So it's going to be really fun. I'm really excited that I have sort of that gap in my schedule to come back home for this event. So, yeah.
And if people want to learn more about this awesome thing, they can find it on Disc Golf Scene, correct?
Yeah. Disc Golf Scene, Smith Lake Farm Disc Golf Camp, I believe. I haven't actually looked at the Disc Golf Scene yet, but yeah.
I guess you don't really need to look at the disc golf scene when you're, already in as a camp leader. It's not something you have to worry about as much.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm excited.
It sounds like it's going to be an awesome time. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it. I absolutely wish that I could, but we will at least send one Missed Mando host out there to get all the deets and really see how much fun it is. How can it not be so much fun? It's disc golf camp. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and this is something where I think we're really hoping to it's going to keep growing every year, and just sort of we're going to see. Yeah, what we can do with this. But this summer is going to be bigger and better than last summer, and last summer was a blast. So I'm really excited.
I noticed that on the flyer, sorry, Robbie, that Central Coast Disc Golf is I guess one of the sponsors. Do you know if the Champs versus Chumps is going to be filmed?
I believe that's going to be what's filmed.
That's going to be awesome. The roasting from Nate is going to be so savage. I'm so excited to be destroyed.
Yeah, we better put on our thick skin here for that.
You don't. You're one of the good players.
I don't know. We'll see.
You're one of the champs. I'm fully on Team
Chump. People are
trying
to train now for this. This is like their,
I hit the gym today. I mean, I got to get in peak training form here.
Yeah. Well, you'll be on camera, so.
No pressure, Sean. You really got to represent the podcast if you do get on camera. But for those familiar with Sean, we know that we can absolutely expect a crash and burn. That's just how it is. But Sophia, earlier in the year, Innova released their 2025 Tour Series discs, including the Sofia Donnecke Proto Glow Champion Eagle L. From what I've seen on social media so far, it has been a popular release this season. What went into your decision to land on the Eagle L as your Tour Series disc? And do you have a sense of how sales have been so far?
So I need to check in with them about the numbers because I can get that information when I want, but I've just been on the go so much that I'm like, oh, sweet, everyone loves it, great. That's probably a good thing for me. So yeah, I don't know that I don't have a good sense of the numbers, but I do know it's very successful. In terms of how I chose it, I just love the Eagle. That's one of the discs that was just already in my bag before I joined Innova, and continued to be. I carry 3 Eagle X's in my bag all the time. And last year I got the J, but I had asked for the Eagle. And then again in the fall, I was like, the Eagle was I know it's already taken, and then they came back to me because I have an Eagle in my bag that is a really old Champion Eagle with I don't even know, one of the older stamps on it. And it's so beat in and old. It's gummy and cloudy Champ. It flies incredibly straight. So it doesn't have that tendency for the Eagle has a pretty curved flight, so you can throw it, it'll flip, but then it'll fade pretty hard. This one just kind of leans over to the right and then doesn't really have that same finish that you see out of the normal Eagle X's. And so when I kind of talked to them about how I love that disc, they were like, well, what about the Eagle L? And so that disc is basically this old Eagle that I have, but fresh out of the box. They fly super straight. And yeah, so I was really pumped about that. And then obviously, Had a nice bald eagle on there for artwork. Growing up, I rowed boats, and we have a lot of bald eagles here that will fish alongside you as you're rowing, and so it's kind of cool to have sort of that eagle fishing coming down for its fish on the stamp. I think that stamp, they did a fantastic job. I asked for something like that, and they just nailed it. So yeah, I'm just really happy with it. Pretty honored to have such a sweet disc as my tour series, and then that people are also loving it just as much as I do, because I think it's a pretty friendly disc. Like, if you have a faster arm speed, you can manipulate it in crazy ways. You can throw it on all these bullet straight lines, but then also the slower arm speeds, you can get a pretty nice flight out of it as well. So it's a pretty versatile disc, and this 7 speeds are just so fun.
As somebody that used to throw an eagle a lot, and especially loved once it got into that sort of seasoned form of getting a little bit straighter, this has to be number one on my current disc golf wish list. So I can't wait to get one of these in my bag myself, and hopefully help improve my game a little bit, which usually desperately needs it. So when I scientifically figure out how many strokes the eagle, especially the Sofia Donnecke Eagle L, saves me on the course, I will pass along the results and let you know exactly how many strokes it saves.
Yeah, it's pretty rare for me to sort of get a disc and put it immediately in my bag, and so I had lost my Eagle L that I had in New Zealand, and I just didn't have, like, the timing with Innova shipment didn't work for me to have them in time for Florida, so I went and bought 2 from a pro shop in Florida. Like, I bought my tour series, and then they were just immediately in my bag, and I just threw them, like, the next day in my tournament round. Like, I had 1 round with them, and I was just trusting them and using them right away, which is pretty cool. Like, I'm not like someone that can do that very easily. I'll usually reach for what I know. So the fact that I was able to do that with those Eagle L's is pretty cool to me.
Did the shop buying you a discount?
Yes.
Like, hi, can I get a me disc?
I didn't say it was me, but I don't know if they knew. I'm not like that.
Totally should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean would have been holding up the disc like, this is? I'm kind of a big deal, going all Ron Burgundy on the shopkeeper.
I mean, you got to.
True, but it's hard work selling discs, so I wanted to support them for supporting me.
A good humble Canadian. You're not gonna brag. Well, Sophia, thank you so much for joining us once again, becoming, I believe, only the 2nd member of our 3-time guest club here on the podcast. So always happy to have you on. And before we let you go, do you have any shout outs or any final comments that you would like to give? The floor is all yours.
Oh, well, I want to just give a huge shout out to Innova Discs, Innova Champion Discs, for supporting me. And I mean, it's really exciting to see us women, and Rebecca, who's also on the team, for going down. And it's cool to have Innova and Innova Canada backing us, and letting us sort of do our best on tour. And it's not easy traveling from Canada, so it's really cool to have that kind of support. And then Emerald City Discs, out of Seattle, for backing me again this year. And yes, huge shout out to Smith Lake Farm for getting this really awesome event going this summer. I'm super stoked.
Well, Sophia, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck with the rest of your 2025 season. We can't wait to see you out in our neck of the woods for the 2025 Canadian National Championships, where you'll be going to defend your crown at that event. So very excited to watch you rip out on those courses. Actually, it's obviously a little bit further out, but do you know anything about the courses that you will be playing for those events? It's courses that I'm familiar with here in Ontario and are lovely. Have you looked into them at all yet?
No, I'll roll up that week and learn them. So you guys can show me around, maybe.
A Missed Mando and Sofia Donnecke collab would, we would love to do that. And you're in store for a treat. There's some great courses that will be utilized for that tournament out here. But good luck with the rest of your 2025 season. We can't wait to see you out in this neck of the woods and have fun out in Europe for that long trip.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to you both. It's always awesome coming on and chatting with you guys. So thanks for having me.
Thanks again, Sophia, and we will be right back here on Missed Mando. Welcome back to Missed Mando. Thank you so much to Sophia for joining the show once again. Another addition to our 3-time guest club. And we are going to go to another new entrant to our 3-time guest club. We will be right back on Missed Mando with Chantel Budinsky. Our next guest last joined us on the show in October of last year following her win at the Ontario Provincial Championships. And so far in 2025, she's been down in the USA on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, cashing at 2 of the 3 events so far this season. So far, she's signed up for 4 more Pro Tour events and a major in the US, but she'll be back home in Ontario in May to go for her 3rd straight Foxwood Open title. She also won the inaugural Ontario FPO Player of the Year award in the voting I ran this offseason. Most notable accolade on this list, if I do say so myself. I might be a little biased there. It is a pleasure to welcome back for the 3rd time on Missed Mando from Windsor, Ontario, Chantel Budinsky. Chantel, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. It is always a pleasure to have you back on the show. And so you started your season down in Florida for the Supreme Flight Open after missing that event last year when it was the chess.com Invitational. Had you played the course at all before the event this year? How did you enjoy it? And how did you feel about your game during the event and the start to your season?
I had not played it before until I got to Florida this year. I really enjoyed the course. I mean, it was the first event of the year, so definitely shaking some rust off, but mostly the nerves that was the thing that was hard to deal with. But I'm just glad that I feel like I played pretty well. It was just a couple things that I wish, I could go back and change. But overall, I really enjoyed the course.
Nerves for a seasoned vet at this point? That still happens for you to start the year?
Yeah, I've always been a pretty nervous person, but I felt like throughout the year it kind of goes away. And I think I'm just reaching that point now, after 4 tournaments. I'm slowly starting to not be as nervous. So it might take a couple holes, but it felt like Florida the whole time I was nervous. Every round, every hole.
Is there anything that you do to kind of like help with those nerves if you're feeling them at an event, whether it be to start the year or any other event through the year? When you start to feel those nerves, is there something that you do to kind of bring yourself back down to earth and sort of be in the moment in the game?
Yeah, so I have some breathing exercises that I do, and I also like to touch the ground or the trees around me, just try to help like ground myself. But it's mostly helpful when I have Chris on the bag because I can just talk nonsense to him and it kind of calms me down.
How much of the tour do you think Chris will be able to join you for?
He'll probably be joining me for all the weekend days. And I'm pretty sure he'll be there for most of the tournaments. I don't see one where he's not there, but yeah, hopefully for most of it.
After Florida, you headed over to Texas for Waco and the Open at Austin. There was an off week in between Florida and Waco. Did you play there's an event in between. Did you play that one or just go straight to Waco?
No, we actually flew to Florida and then we flew back home. So we had that week and then we left the Friday and drove to Texas.
Drove to Texas. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long drive.
Yes, it was like 19 and a half hours.
Oof. Oof. So this was your 3rd straight year, I think, playing both of those events. How did your tournament experience at these events change over time, if at all? And how does that sort of, do you enjoy sort of going back to courses again and getting a second kick at them, or what do you like on the Pro Tour?
This will be it was my second time being to Texas. So I went last year.
Second.
Yeah. So this is my second year, and I really enjoy going back to the courses because it shows you how much your game has changed, has improved, and you kind of already have a game plan set, and then you kind of just change it to how your game is now. So it was really nice getting a second chance at Waco. I felt like I played it a lot better. Very happy we didn't play Ivy Hills because that was a brutal course. But yeah, I loved the Beast. It was great. And then where else were we in Texas? Oh, Sprinkle Valley.
Sprinkle Valley.
I do really like that course. And I mean, there was a couple changes that made it a lot harder, but I still really love that course. Yes. And also Harvey Pennock. That is also a great course. And I felt like the courses felt easier for me because my game is a little bit better.
Let's start with Waco. What did you do differently to attack the course this year? Or how did you feel the conditions were? Like, I know wind is obviously a big factor in Waco. How was it this year compared to last year?
So we had wind and it was really cold last year. So that was like the main difference. This year it was really nice and warm. Our practice days were amazing. And we had pretty good weather for Waco. It was just extremely windy, which, I mean, it's always going to be windy there. So it's kind of just learn what you're going to do and be confident at it, because you cannot throw an unconfident shot in the wind. And I learned that. Yeah, it was rough.
With Sprinkle Valley, you played it last year at USW DGC. How did you like the change? Putting aside hole 18, because we got a whole separate question for that, so we won't jump ahead. But putting that aside, how did you like what they did with the course this year compared to last year?
They really cleaned it up. So when we played it last year, it was brand new, and you could tell. So the fairways were way more cleaned up this year. Hole 11, they kind of made harder, I think, just because they were adjusting for the MPO. So some of our baskets were pushed back. We had tighter OB, but honestly, it just looked a lot better. So it kind of evened out because maybe your errant shot wasn't as bad this year. So I think it was pretty good overall.
So Sean sort of alluded to it already, but there was a lot of discussion after the Open at Austin about hole 18 specifically at Sprinkle Valley, which played as the hardest hole in Pro Tour history. So we got to ask, what was your opinion on hole 18? I will say that you were one of only 5 birdies in both rounds that were played on that course and on that hole. So incredible job there. But do you like it? Do you hate it? What could be done to make it a better hole? And not sure if you heard, but today Mint Disc put out a video that they were actually pulling the basket from hole 18. Now, not sure if that was, sort of like a pre-April Fool's Day thing, and we're going to get another post tomorrow that's going to clarify something. That is to be seen, but at least the way it looks right now, they've pulled the basket from hole 18 after the ridicule that it received. So what was your sort of overall opinion?
I'm kind of, I don't hate it, but I do think it wasn't the best, just because when we were practicing, I immediately turned to Chris and I was like, this is gonna be a backup hole. So many shots. Just think about everyone who's taking even one extra shot every time you get up to the OB. So yeah, that was my first thought. And then I was like, okay, trying to break it down. How am I just going to get a par on this hole? Like, because that's going to be a great score. But it's so hard to plan because the wind is so crazy and unpredictable. So once you get up there, it's kind of like all your planning goes out the window and you just have to try your best to get a par. But I mean, a birdie is possible. I proved that to myself and I'm really happy. And it's not luck. I say it's a little bit of luck because I didn't hit anything, but it's definitely out there. but also a triple, quad. Those are out there too.
You proved that to more than just yourself. You proved that to the entire Pro Tour. Like that was a big flag that you planted. Chantel was here. And that was awesome. It got a lot of recognition on the other podcasts, giving you shout outs and props for nailing that birdie. Obviously the wind was unpredictable or hard to plan for, but what was your sort of plan and thought going into a hole of that difficulty? How did you, and your practice rounds or your thought, how did you mentally break that hole down into sort of chunks?
Okay, so the tee shot is pretty easy. You just throw out and then land somewhere. So what I wanted to do was land a little bit left because it opens up the gap a little bit more. You have more room to swing your hyzer because there is OB left once you get to your second shot. And I didn't do a great job of that the first round because we had I think more of a headwind the first round. I think. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But the second round, we had a really big right to left. And that was really hard to commit to your shots because you have to throw something stable, but something that's not going to fade out. So that was something I think in practice we had kind of a similar wind. So what I was practicing was just trying to get to the left, having a hyzer swing in, and then if you weren't in the perfect spot, laying up to 10 feet behind the stairs. Because if you're right on the stairs, it's kind of a hard shot because you're just closer, you can't see, you have to throw it more nose up. So that was my game plan. It was always to lay up unless I got a great shot up into like the flat ground. And then that other shot, the last shot, is just throw something straight and land in the island, but not go short. You can't go short on that. And that was difficult because I didn't feel comfortable just blasting a driver right down the gap. So I was just throwing a mid, trying to at least get a little bit extra distance, but to stay in bounds. That was my plan. And I didn't do it very well the first day. I messed up 2 shots. I ended up taking a 9, but we figured it out for the last round.
What do you think could be changed on the hole to sort of make it better or less ridiculously punishing for the best players in the world, of which you are one? Is it a good hole with bad rules, or is it a bad hole?
I don't think it's a bad hole. Like the shot shapes, they make sense. It's not something where it's like, oh, you just have to get super lucky and hit this crazy gap. Like the gaps are there and it makes sense. But it is that lingering feeling like your whole round you're thinking about hole 18, just like that you
waiting there.
Yeah, it's waiting for you. And I don't know how to change it to make it better. Like people are saying you could add 2 drop zones. So you miss the first shot, there's a drop zone, and then you continue to the next one when you miss it again. But it's like they don't seem to want that. They want you to have those very hard shots and the decisions that you have to make, which I understand. I do. Like we're the professionals and we should be able to manage it, but also it was pretty mean. So I'm just sitting in the middle. Like, I don't know if it's a good hole. I don't know if it's a bad hole. I'm not sure. I think it's maybe if I quad bogeyed it again, I would hate the hole, but
But you did birdie it.
But I birdied it. So how mad could I actually be? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Do you think changing it to the rule set for USW DGC would be a better way of doing it, where it wasn't truly an island of OB?
Yeah, I feel like the hole would be a lot, I don't want to say better, but it would be way more manageable because it was still hard. It was still really hard to hit that tunnel and get to the basket and not go OB. And some people are saying that you can make it hazard, which also would be fine too. It actually would probably make it easier to hit the island because you're not as scared to go for it. But yeah, I'm not sure how to make it better.
So
How does coming off
Right.
the course with a ending the round with a birdie on a hole as difficult as that? How is that feeling coming off the course compared to coming off the course in other rounds that you've experienced for your career? Was it just like that much more elation that you were able to end the round by really taking down what is the hardest hole in disc golf history?
were you walking around flexing on everyone?
No, I'm
You had did you get a t-shirt? I got a birdie on Sprinkle Valley 18.
no, but I should.
You totally should, 100%.
I feel like I was really excited. Like my heart was beating so fast once they waved the green flag because I definitely thought it was OB. And when they gave me that green flag, it felt so amazing that I didn't have to worry and everybody else was still suffering. It was such a great feeling, and like afterwards it felt good too because the night before I like had nightmares of the hole and like what am I gonna do? So it just felt amazing.
Love that. I mean, everybody was absolutely cheering this. Like when we saw that was just so good. So good. And so you've left Texas behind you and you are now in, I assume, Nashville.
Yes.
Getting ready for the Music City Open as the lone Canadian in the field. Last year,
Really? Oh,
yeah, I think you're the only one.
okay.
The other Canada geese have flown north apparently. So last year you cashed in 21st place, and this year the field's a little bit bigger, and there are some changes to the course. How do you like Mill Ridge in general, and how are you liking the changes? And how's the weather looking?
The weather is looking terrible. We have rain every day besides tomorrow, I think. So everyone, I'm sure, will be getting out tomorrow to practice. The course is already very wet, and it's just going to get worse. I think there's a flood warning as well that's happening. So we're going to see how that goes. Hopefully we can all get 3 rounds in, but Friday, I believe there's thunderstorms in the afternoon. So we'll see if MPO can play. But the course, this is my 3rd year here, and the first year I loved the course. Second year, not so much. They made some big changes, and it really plays for people who can throw far. And last year I was having difficulty with my distance drives. I got my first round in today though, and I will say I really do like the changes. They did make some of the OB a lot tighter, which, I mean, it's not that it's bad, but it's more difficult for some of the holes. And it seems to be on like the longer par 4s and 5s that they did that. So they were already difficult. Now they're just a little bit more difficult, but they did make some of the holes easier. So I just feel like the flow of the course is a lot better this year. And I feel like scores are going to be, well, I don't want to say scores are going to be better because of the rain, but I feel like it definitely will score better for the FPO field.
Yeah, I think they cut one hole in half and turned it into 2 holes, and they got rid of one and renumbered. This is like three sort of new holes and 15 renumbered holes. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, something like that.
Is this a tournament that you look forward to, or is this just sort of one on the list?
It's not like one of my tops. I think I really wanted to come back to it last year, and then I saw the changes and I was kind of bummed about it. But I do really like this course. Now it seems a lot better. I just wish we had some better weather. I feel like that's just going to be the thing that ruins everything.
Yeah, that's nice. Isn't that going to be fun?
No, it's not.
You're also signed up, of course, for USWDGC out in Wisconsin. The Discmania Challenge, which used to be the Des Moines Challenge. You're going to Idlewild. I don't see Deglow on the list, but which is, it's a close to home. That's basically your backyard. I assume registration just isn't open for that one yet. I assume you will be playing that one.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Which of the events that you've signed up for are you most looking forward to? Are there any you're looking to get some revenge on? What are you excited about for the rest of the seasons as it looks so far?
I'm always super excited to get back to Idlewild. I just feel like I play really well there. Well, the last 2 years, I think I played well there. And I just know that I actually have a shot at winning Idlewild. My practice rounds are always really, really good. It's just putting them into tournament rounds and getting everything to work. But that's always what I'm looking forward to, as long as there's no rain. What else? I always look forward to US Women's because there's just so much women and we have such a huge field and it's just always a blast. So that one's like always my top for the year.
Yeah, Idlewild, you did really well last year. You tied for 12th with Missy Gannon. That was a great finish for you.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
and the year before I think I was 9th. So I was a little upset to kind of go down, but I mean it's getting better. The competition's harder, so
Absolutely. That was a solid finish. Solid finish. Have you been out to Wisconsin to play those courses before?
no, not yet. I haven't even seen what they look like yet.
I imagine you'll mostly be sort of playing them blind, or like when you arrive, you won't have a chance to get to Wisconsin early to get any practice rounds in ahead of them.
No, I think it's right after the preserve, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll just have that week, or well, the whatever it will be, 3 days to practice.
So Prodigy recently announced their 2025 Signature Series discs, which will be available for purchase later this week, actually. And that, of course, includes the Chantel Budinsky Signature D2 in Air Spectrum Plastic, which in a recent post included the tagline, "Born from the harshest northern winds, frostbite commands blizzards and summons storms that freeze all in their path, leaving only frost and silence in its wake," which has to be the most badass tagline for a disc I've ever heard in my life. So what went into your process for choosing the disc and plastic that you wanted for your signature series? And the stamp is super awesome too. Did you have any input on that as well? I'm not sure if you're familiar with Star Wars, but I'm a huge Star Wars nerd myself, and it gives me major Wampa vibes. So I might have to put one in my bag just for that reason alone.
Didn't have I think we were going for natural disasters. I think that's what the whole theme was this year. And obviously I chose Blizzard because I'm from Canada and it just felt right. They asked me my opinion. I said, you know what, just go for it because Prodigy's been killing it with all of their designs. And I'm not sure his name. I always forget it, but he designed it and I'm like, yeah, that's perfect. Like I didn't even have any revisions, like nothing. I just loved it right away. So that's how that was made. And then I picked the D2 Air because I've been throwing them a lot lately. They go so far. And these ones are perfect because they're actually pretty overstable. And my other D2 Airs, they're pretty beat in, but they're pretty flippy. So these ones I can actually trust when it's windy. And I think that's just so awesome. And I think a lot of people who maybe don't throw air discs very often because they're scared of like the wind or the torque resistance, they will like this one.
I bag a D4 Air, I bag a D3 Air, and I'm excited to add a D2 Air to the bag. I just got a really nice D2 at the Guelph Ice Bowl. And it really came in handy to help fight the winds that we had over at Eastview. It's a great disc, and I can't wait to add it in a lighter weight.
I can't wait to see people throw it. I'm really excited.
Yeah. I love the Prodigy Air drivers. They are so good and so underrated, I think.
I think so too.
Did it pretty much instantly make the bag? This new one?
I have it in my bag. I haven't been throwing it a ton. I have so many discs in my bag right now. I feel like I have like 34 discs and I just keep reshuffling things. So I haven't really been throwing it just because I'll have some time off after this tournament to kind of play with it and feel more comfortable throwing it. But I definitely think it's going to make the bag. It's
definitely going to be making my bag. The hard part is going to be which color to pick. The stamp looks so good. I mean, what do you think is the best color? You go blue, you go pink. What are you thinking?
I have a pink one. I also have a purple one, but the pink one's gonna go in my bag just because pink's the best color.
It's pink, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards blue, but the pink one looks pretty sick as well. I don't know. We'll have to see. So you'll be back in Ontario in May for Foxwood, going for your third straight title. Clearly that course and that event works really well for you. What do you think is this that makes it such a great match for your game?
I don't think it's a good match for me. I have trouble on ball golf course, so I'm not sure why I've been able to kind of pull up the win. You know, the competition in Ontario is getting harder every year. Everyone's getting so good. So I do think this year I'm gonna have some trouble with some of the people who can throw so far now and their putting's getting so good. So I'm gonna have to try my very best to keep the title.
One thing that I am looking forward to about Foxwood is that I will be there as well and will be able to finally give you your award, the Ontario FPO Player of the Year Award. How much of that process were you paying attention to through the whole vote and seeing people, when I'd make posts commenting who they wanted to win? Obviously, lots of comments for you from your fans. So how much did you sort of pay attention to that process, and what was your reaction afterwards to seeing that the fans had voted you Player of the Year?
I watched everything. I was tagged in quite a few posts, so I was keeping up with it. Usually, I'm not like a huge Facebook person, so I don't really pay attention much to Facebook, but when I'm tagged in something, usually I see it. So I was following along, and I liked to see everybody's just like comments about it and all the other the how do you say, the people who were also like in the voting, just seeing everybody's reaction and everybody saying who they're going to vote for. That was really fun to follow along, and like thank you for doing all that, because that must have been a ton of work. I was like blown away with all the stats you had. Like that was awesome. And then to actually win it was really nice, because I feel like I didn't really push it to like my followers to go vote for me. I kind of just wanted to see how it would actually, work out without me trying to push all my followers. So I was really happy to see that I won it.
It was a fun process to do. I definitely became very familiar with your PDGA page and your stats from the 2024 season as I was going through that. But it was a fun process, and it's just cool to see the engagement from other Ontario disc golfers and who they support, who they think should win awards, and people always get so involved in that sort of thing, which is what I get the most enjoyment out of it. But I will certainly get a lot of enjoyment from being able to actually give you the award, the plaque that was made up for that, to add to a growing list of awards that you've got in a trophy closet somewhere, I'm sure.
I'm very excited to receive it.
Doesn't look like you're heading to Europe for the summer at this point. So what are your plans through June and July? We mentioned you'll be back in Ontario for May. So after that, while the tour sort of heads across the Atlantic for a little bit, what is in your plans?
So we're actually coming home after MCO. So our tour's kind of cut short just because of everything that's going on. But we're actually planning on going to Europe for Worlds. So we will be there for, I think, 2 weeks. Yes, so that's really exciting. I'm not exactly sure. There's still, when do we even go? Like the end of July? I'm still not exactly sure. I don't even know what events I have signed up. I'm sure I have some events planned, like some A tiers and B tiers, probably in Michigan or around Ontario, I'm sure. But I'm not sure off the top of my head right now.
Well, we're very glad to hear that you're going to be representing out of Europe. So will this be your first time playing over there?
Yes.
What what course are you most looking forward to playing, or do you think will be a good match for your game, Beast or Monster?
Whatever one's more wooded. I think my style of play works for most of their courses over there because they do seem to have more wooded courses, maybe more technical, and I feel like I usually do better there than the open bomber style courses. So I'm looking forward to and even playing some of the courses that aren't on for Worlds because I just want to go and play disc golf over in Europe. It just sounds so fun.
Plan going to be to just play Worlds, or will you look at playing the other European major over there as well, with, of course, there being 2 majors in Europe this year?
We're just going to be doing the Worlds. I think the other one is already full and with a wait list. But with Chris like working, he can't get that much time off, and
It's a lot.
it would be it's a lot, and I need him to come with me.
How could you leave your 1,000 rated caddy behind? Yeah, definitely he needs to be there for Worlds, 100%.
Yes, he does.
He really seems to be a pretty integral component of your game, and it's awesome seeing the 2 of you out there, seeing you both on coverage. Like I really like that picture that I took of the 2 of you at Ontario Provincials last year. You really have a great partnership out there on the course.
Yes, I honestly don't know what I would do without him. He just, if I'm having a bad day, he just calms me down and he gets me to focus back up, and even when I'm really nervous, like how I said earlier, he just we just talk and say silly things and it just calms me down. So I need him there.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. I love that for you. But so before we let you go, do you have any shout outs or any thank yous that you'd like to give, or any final comments? The floor is all yours.
Okay, of course. I would like to say thank you to my sponsors, Prodigy Disc Republic, the Go Towel and Drive Bags. And I thank all of you guys, and thank you for having me on the podcast. I love coming on here and just talking about disc golf all the time. And also, my Tour Series disc is coming out April 3rd. You can find that on prodigydisc.com and discrepublic.ca.
Is Disc Republic, is that a new sponsor for you? Did I see that you just picked?
Last year. So this is my second year with them.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Love to see the Canadian retailers support the Canadian pros. So that's where we should pick up your Tour Series disc.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, especially if you're in Canada.
Are there any like codes that we should use to make sure that you get credit for us shopping there?
Yes. So missfrisbees. I don't know if it's case sensitive, but it's just missfrisbees. Use it when you're done at checkout.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much again for joining us for the 3rd time on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on, and we're always happy and to see your success on tour. And we're excited to follow along as you play through 2025.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome, and we will be right back on Miss Mando.
Welcome back to Miss Mando. Thank you so much to Chantel for joining us again on the show. Always a pleasure to have her on the podcast. And that is going to do it for our first bonus interview only episode. A couple of great interviews on this one, Shawnee G?
Absolutely love having them both back on the show. Love hearing about life on tour. And maybe I was a little too harsh on hole 18 when I said it was absolutely trash and it should never appear on the tour again. People who actually played it didn't think it was horrible. Just maybe just needs a little tweaks around the edges, but is salvageable. So that was awesome to hear their perspective, and also to hear about what their 2025 season is going to look like and where they're going next. I'm very, very excited to watch their seasons progress, and for me personally, to get out to Vancouver Island for that disc golf camp.
Yeah, that is going to be a fun time out at that disc golf camp. And as always, we are looking forward very much to watching and supporting our Canadian pros out on the Pro Tour, and looking forward to seeing them back here in Ontario too. Chantel for Foxwood, and then Nationals as well later in the year. And Sofia will be out here for Nationals later in the year. So very excited for that. But that is going to do it for us here on Missed Mando. Thank you so much once again to Sofia and Chantel for joining us. For Sean Galbraith, I'm Robbie Holden. This has been Missed Mando, and we will see you on the course. Do 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 do.